What's up, y'all? I'm KM Best, and I am preparing for the Conquest Conquerors event in Marvel Snap. For those of you who are not aware, it is a sort of competitive conquest race, and that means that I need to learn the best decks in the game inside and out so I can play them as fast as I possibly can and as quickly and efficiently as I can make myself do. So what that means for you is that we're going to be looking at the decks I played on the first day of my Conquest Prep and what you can learn from them. This is sort of an off-tier list. Like, these aren't every good deck in the game, but I hope you can learn from my preparation what you should be playing in ladder and in Conquest as well. So I'll be going over the decks that I played on day one. For full disclosure, I actually did not lose a single battle mode game in my first day of testing. 11-0, 3 complete gold to infinities and 1 complete silver to gold. So we're going to talk about the 4 decks that I used in order to accomplish this and what I learned from them, and hopefully you get something good out of that. The first deck that I played is a pretty classic take on Thanos control. It's a very powerful archetype to use, but it does have a bad matchup now in the form of the Darkhawk Killmonger decks. One thing that I really took away from this is that your early plays of like trying to scam a Professor X are actually just bad into a turn 3 Killmonger, because you want to be playing a lot of stones early, including a time stone on 3. They Killmonger you, suddenly you're very much guessing with that Professor X, and you don't actually have a lot of the latitude that you otherwise might to put it in a bunch of different locations. You have to make much harder decisions if your early stones get blown up. Do keep that in mind when you run into Darkhawk decks, because they are already a little bit advantaged against you just by virtue of Thanos, meaning that your deck is so large that their Darkhawk is almost always good. So for this reason, we've included Super Skrull. Super Skrull is here for mirrors, and it's here for Darkhawk decks. We need a way to even it out a little bit. Yes, their Darkhawk will probably be bigger than yours, but you getting a free Darkhawk is still pretty damn good. And generally speaking, Super Skrull, it's not going to win those games, but it makes them a little bit more fair. You can still play fair games. Like, there are a lot of games where you just draw a ton of cards off your stones and it's not the end of the world. But you do need to really get your scams down when you play a deck like this. You need to be maximizing the value you get when you do your powerful stuff and minimizing the value you lose when you don't do your powerful stuff. Keep in mind, if you're getting a Mind Stone on turn 1, you should probably be snapping it, unless you have a very compelling matchup-based reason not to do so. Generally speaking, I think this might just be the best deck in the game. It's extremely powerful, it gets a ton of work done, it is an easy deck to pick up and play, but a hard deck to master. If you're looking for something to invest some time in, I would suggest investing it in Thanos. It has consistently risen back to the top of the metagame after other outliers have been brought down to its level. It is consistently doing things that are powerful. Thanos, right now, very, very strong. The next deck is the one we played in Silver Conquest, because I just wasn't that confident in it. The coach I had on the stream for today was Braude, who is a longtime Shuri aficionado. I felt like I wanted to just try one Shuri deck, see how it went, and honestly, it went better than I thought it would. Just putting big numbers on the board is pretty good, but I think the real key to this deck is that it gets to free roll include an Enchantress. That's very powerful. Generally speaking, right now, this deck gets better the better Enchantress is in the metagame. Right now, Enchantress is as good as it'll ever be. There are so many ongoing targets for this card, and you do have a lot of ability to just put a bunch of units in one lane, and then Enchantress win the other, or go for like a Vision Taskmaster. There's a lot of play in this deck, right? You have generally a strong game plan, even if you don't draw Shuri. Drawing Sauron is a pretty key thing to do, though, because otherwise your Ebony Maw is absolutely, completely, without question, unplayable. Do not YOLO early Ebony Maws. If you don't get the things that make Ebony Maw good, just don't play the card. You do not want to play this card and risk the downside affecting you. Only play it when you can get rid of the downside. Other than that, I think this deck is... I mean, it was better than I expected. I expected it to be like total trash, and we completed a Silver Conquest with it. I think that it is not one of the 3 or 4 decks that I would currently consider for Conquerors, but it's a little bit more on my radar than it was previously, so there is something to be said for that. I generally was impressed by how it functioned when it drew Sauron, and was not very impressed by how it functioned when it didn't. And that is one of the things that I don't like about these sort of Sauron Shuri decks, is like, if you don't draw Sauron, you're doing just things that are mostly below par. But if you do, your things are generally just good. You're doing strong things, you have Enchantress interaction, you have maybe a 1-cost Ebony Maw, you have good things that you can do. So I was a little bit more impressed with this than I expected to be. It's probably not making it on the list, but it is something that is now more on my radar than it was. One archetype that I wanted to explore, mostly for ease of snap opportunities, was the Lockjaw High Evolutionary archetype. And so the version that we see here is very much just invested in being pretty hard to stream snipe. And unfortunately, that is something I'm worried about for the Conquerors event. So the thought process with this is, it's pretty hard to stream snipe me if I don't know how big my Dracula is going to be. If I don't know what's coming out of that Lockjaw, you also don't know. There's really not a lot of ability to stream snipe me with this that I can't really just sort of see coming, right? So that's the main reason that I wanted to try a deck like this, and it was great. We went 3-0 in a Gold Conquest with it, collected an Infinity ticket, and I am a little more into it than I was, because honestly, when I picked this list up, I thought, you know, okay, it's probably worse than Thanos, it's probably worse than Darkhawk, I do want to try it out, and I didn't expect it to be as powerful as it was. I didn't expect the Dracula Infinite thing to ever actually be good. The threat of Dracula is so powerful. Even if you're not discarding Infinite, people are afraid that you might. And so, like, we've won games off of that. And generally also, like, Jane Foster's still an incredible card. You do have to get lucky to win with this deck, and you do have to snap aggressively. And I think one thing that I would give you as a tip if you do pick this deck up is, like, if you snap aggressively and they snap back and you're going to lose that 8-cuber, leave. You can absolutely recover from 6 to 10. You probably cannot recover from 2 to 10. But the amount of times I've lost an opening game, like 8-cuber retreat for 4, and then come back and won the set, that happens all the time. Please, please, please do not feel locked in with your snaps with a deck like this. You can be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. But like a lot of the time, you're just like, I've got Lockjaw and Wasp, I guess I'm snapping. I've got Lockjaw and Jubilee, I guess I'm snapping. And that's fine. You're probably right. You don't need to worry about it. Like, this is a deck that more than any other deck requires you to recognize that you don't need to be guaranteed winning to snap. You just need to be favored. That's it. And that is the biggest tip I can give you for playing this one. The last deck that we tried was a simple Darkhawk deck with just no BS in it whatsoever. This is just absolutely no BS. There's no Luke Cage, there's no Spider-Ham. We are playing Zabu on turn 2 as much as we can, thanks to America Chavez. We are playing Iron Lad into Dr. Doom if we can pull it off. And we are going to put as much power on the board as we possibly can while still maintaining our ability to interact with Enchantress, Shang-Chi, and Killmonger. This is the exact deck that a Thanos deck does not want to see. Any kind of late game enormous power backed up by an early game Killmonger is just so hard to deal with. I actually had a game where my Thanos opponent snapped on me after I had snapped early. They played all 6 stones by turn 3, and I Killmongered them all. And they lost, because that is what happens when you do that. Like, Thanos is so incentivized to play as many cards as they can before turn 3, Time Stone Professor X, that if you Killmonger without priority on turn 3, you're blowing up like 4 to 6 stones. It's strong as hell. Killmonger right now, non-negotiable. You have to play the card. In fact, I don't even know what changes I would make to this list. I think if I had to think about something, it might be like cutting Chavez, maybe? Because, like, once in the mirrors, your stuff gets shuffled. She's not that good. Doom himself is not that good, honestly. Like, you can maybe go replace Doom with Leader or something. Or maybe you'd replace Chavez with Leader. Like, we've tried things like that in this archetype before. And I think it's like a time-honored thing. I definitely did think, like, okay, what if we just got another 2-cost in there? If there's a specific matchup you want Spider-Ham for, I don't mind it. If there's a specific matchup you want Luke Cage for, I don't mind it. But in light of what we talked about previously in my most recent video on this Darkhawk Legion deck, generally, we want our Iron Lads to be able to high roll as high as possible. Adding Doom as a possible high roll for Iron Lad is just phenomenal and a great way to sort of break parity in these mirrors. If you Iron Lad a Doom, you're just going to be so far ahead of anyone playing like a Black Bolt stature deck that is not able to do that. So I think that's the main thing that I took away from this was we wanted to have another compelling reason to play Iron Lad beyond just him being, you know, low, like very low risk. So now we have a much more high upside Iron Lad here, which is pretty cool. I think that those 4 decks that we played, if I had to rank them in order, I would say Thanos and Darkhawk are the top 2. Lockjaw is below that, and Shuri is below that. Let me know what you think about this kind of video, because I have never done a just like, here is a summary of my prep video, so I'm trying to sort of couch it as like a, these are the decks I'm thinking about for Conquerors kind of thing. And it's true, those are the decks I'm thinking about for Conquerors. That's sort of where my head is at, so hopefully it goes well. Obviously, I'm overjoyed with this first day of prep. Like, it went as well as it possibly could. We went 11-0, no losses. We were like 8-9-0 by the time the 3-hour mark rolled around. We did great. But like, as far as like a perfect session, this is as close as it can get. So I do think that I'm definitely feeling energized. I'm feeling good about the deck selection right now. And I do think that I have a pretty good handle on, you know, a basic outline of what decks I'd be interested in playing right now. But of course, there are more days of coaching, more days of testing ahead. So I will have W Snaps, the former Wobolos, on stream. I will have Lambie Series on stream. And I will have Brendan APG, my podcast partner, on the Snapshot on stream. That will be Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. If you're interested in that, come check it out. We will be doing something similar to what we did today with Braude, testing and then presenting a summary so that you guys can understand where my head is at, what things have been doing well for me, and where I'm feeling confident, where I'm feeling not confident in terms of my game and in terms of the Conquerors event. For everyone who voted for me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a ton that you believe in me, and I am going to be busting my ass in order to reward your belief. I will be prepping with the best players in Marvel Snap, and I will be doing everything I can in order to win. I'm even wearing my glasses right now because something in me is telling me, like, okay, if I see things sharper, I won't miss anything. I know that's like a little bit ridiculous, but like I said, I'm willing to go the extra mile for y'all, and I really want to try to reward you with my best effort, basically. I'm not going to half-ass this. I'm going to try my hardest, and if I don't win, that's fine, but I will try my hardest for you. Thank you so much. As always, I've been KMBest. If you made it this far, drop a comment. I read them all. Leave a like, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.